Welcome to the Good Talk Podcast, where we remind you of the joy of life, the love of God, and the possibilities that lie ahead. Pete and Jordyn here with episode 60.
Friends don't have to be friends forever. Is that it?
Yeah, it's close enough. I don't know. We keep going back and forth debating the title of this. I don't like any of the titles we've come up with.
Yeah, nothing encapsulates what you're wanting to say.
Maybe that's what we call it. I hated all the titles. But we're talking to, I think, I don't like any of the titles we've come up with because they sound negative, and I think the concept we're going to talk about today and the visual that comes along with it is so life-giving. Yeah. It is literally, it's changed the way I'm viewing relationships.
Yeah, no, we've talked about it. I guess it was 2 days ago, we were sitting on the side porch and we just kept rambling about it. And I was like, we almost need to not keep talking because this is going to be so good for a podcast. But anyway, I'm excited for it. So it's about friendships and...
It's really about all relationships.
All relationships. Okay.
Yep.
You guys, if you have been listening or follow along on YouTube, you know that we started a vlog, which we're really excited about. Woo-hoo. So if you haven't seen it or checked it out, please do that. That is on our channel called With the Wilsons. That's also where this podcast gets uploaded. But yeah, so we're having fun with it. We're only 2 episodes in.
Really are having a blast.
We are having fun. It comes out every Sunday, or we're trying to do every Sunday. Hopefully we can keep that up. But so our third one will come out this Sunday. So if you subscribe and click the little alert button, then you'll get an email when it comes out.
Do you have to click the alert button to get the notification?
To get the notification. Oh. Otherwise, if you subscribe, it's just in your library when you go to YouTube. That. Anywho's, yeah, we're having a lot of fun with it. So we hope that you guys are enjoying it as well.
And speaking of a lot of fun, we went out on a date last night.
Oh my gosh.
We left Pepper for the first time with a babysitter.
At night. Yeah, we've done lots of daytime babysitting. But yeah, to not put her down, I'm the only person in the whole world who has put her down at night.
It's crazy.
And that has a routine in and of itself. So it was I don't know, it was just a little nervous. I sent your mom a text, probably, gosh, I don't know, way too long of a text explaining here's all the things that I do. Hope it's helpful.
My mom,
she was super sweet.
And then my son. My son did the second shift.
Yep. So she got her down, and then Gage stayed until we got home watching the monitor. So It was really sweet. But we went to the John Mayer concert. If you know me, John Mayer is
she loves
my all-time favorite musician. You started to like him last night.
I like him. I like watching him live. I don't love his music.
Okay.
I know all the John Mayer lovers are going to hate on me, but I just don't.
That's fine. Musically, he's genius.
He is.
Lyrically, he's a genius. He's just very smart. So I really enjoy I like
watching him play guitar.
Watching him play. Yeah. So anyways, we had a super fun time. We went down to downtown Nashville with 4 or 5 other friends.
Yep.
So anyway, we had a good time, and Pepper went down. She slept all night. And so I proved that I can do it.
Maybe we get to go out again soon.
Hey, that's up to you. I am down. I'm down. But yeah, no, we had a lot of fun. It was very weird. I kept checking modern technology. You have the baby camera that you can actually see and check on an app. And so concert was about to start, and I'm flipping through, and I can pull it up and literally see her sleeping. It was
that is cool.
Awesome. But also probably you can't really escape it. That's also the negative to that. But I liked being able to check up on her. Yeah,
it was fun. She did great. Love it. All right, you ready to talk about this stuff?
I am. I'm excited about this.
So, you remember Michael W. Smith?
Yes, I do.
Well, he's not dead.
He's still alive.
Yeah, I know. I said that. Sorry if I made it sound like he was no longer in existence. He is in existence.
Yeah.
But he had this song called Friends Are Friends Forever. And when I was a kid and you went to church camp, you always ended church camp the last night with that song. Everybody would sing Friends Are Friends Forever and then cry.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds really dramatic.
Which I always thought, if friends are friends forever, why were we crying? It was we were singing a song we didn't believe because we knew we weren't going to see those people again, and that's why we were crying.
That's funny. It's like the Vitamin C song, as we go on, we remember. You know that song?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it's what everybody plays at the end of
That's
a
secular version of Friends Are Friends Forever.
Yeah, and it's really sad. I remember crying in 4th grade because I thought I would never see these kids, and I'm we'll see you next year. Anyway, So Michael W. Smith.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm just kind of in some ways debunking the song.
Okay.
Because friends usually aren't friends forever.
Correct.
To be honest. And that's what I want to talk about, because I think there's a lot of unnecessary guilt that kind of goes around this. And I want to kind of provide you a different way maybe to look at some of your relationships today. And believe me, I love the idea of having friends that you stay close to them throughout your entire lifetime, but that just usually is not the reality.
Yeah.
It's
and
not
I think
the reality.
I think sometimes it's guilt, other times it's bitterness, other times it's resentment. Like it's not always just a guilt thing. You also sometimes feel like it's been done to you.
Yeah.
So it's a really freeing concept that you're going to talk about.
Yeah, I like it. One of the studies that I looked up showed that we lose about half of our friendships and replace them every 7 years.
So we replace half of our friendships every 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that actually.
Yeah.
That's pretty realistic.
And we're going to talk about some of the real practical reasons why that happens. But anyway, so I heard somebody talking about this image of comparing relationships to kind of floating down a creek. And I love that. That image really stuck with me. I don't know if it'll stick with all of you listening to this, but we have a creek on our farm, and that's one of our favorite activities is floating down the creek. And so we have, in the summertime, we'll have tons of these inner tubes, and they, we'll just kind of put them out there. There are times we've tied them all together with a rope so that they all stay together, but a lot of times we don't, and people just kind of get in the creek, and you can see all the way down to the bottom. It's just completely clear, and we'll just float for hours in that creek. And sometimes you don't actually want to float; you want to stay kind of anchored, and so you kind of have to find something to hold on to, or something like that. But the idea that this guy was talking about is like, when in life you're kind of the creek would kind of be just like life, right? And you're in life, you're just kind of out there and you're floating. And he compared this idea that at times you're floating with somebody, right? Going down the creek, and then something happens and you're no longer floating next to them. And somebody gets in a different current, and maybe they go a little bit faster, or maybe you don't want to go as fast and you want to go slower, so you slow down, right? You kind of anchor yourself,
right.
And they move on. And it created for me this visual, a different way of thinking about some of the former friendships that I've had in my life that I have felt either regret or bitterness or guilt over the fact that we no longer float together. But he really gave me some language to start relaxing a little bit into, hey, that's okay. It's all right. You're going to have different seasons. So I want to just walk through just a handful of principles that have really kind of come to my mind recently about friendships. And the first one is this: to celebrate what those past friendships brought to your life. So I've got a friend that he and I were friends and worked together for over 10 years. And we've kind of gone our different directions. And he's one of the first people I thought about when I thought about this illustration. And you know what? We've kind of taken two different paths, and that's fine. I actually tried to reconcile that friendship not too long ago, and it just didn't work out, and that's okay. We're just kind of in two different places these days. And relationships come and go. And what I'm trying to do is look back on that friendship and instead of throw the 10 years that we had together away because it maybe didn't end the way I wanted it to end, or because it's not continuing right now the way I would like for it to continue. But instead of having any kind of resentment or bitterness or guilt about that, looking back and saying, wow, I'm really glad that we got to float together for 10 years. Right? I'm really glad about that. And had some great times, made some great memories, went through some things together. And the reality is people do change, and people grow up and they grow apart. And every friend you make teaches you something about others, about yourself. And then we put into our lives these memories that we've shared and these experiences that we've braved together. And I'm getting to a place where I guess I'm realizing that the duration of a friendship doesn't define its worth.
That's good.
Do you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely do. I don't have a ton of like long relationships like back to my childhood, which is interesting because my family still lives where I grew up. So it's not like we moved a lot. But once I left high school, it was then now my college friends are my friends. And then I left college, and then it was like, okay, now it's my people at work are my friends. So yeah, I can't like imagine some of the friendships I have now as being any less because I haven't known them since I was 7,
Yep. Yeah, I want to apologize to everybody if you can hear that weed eater or that blower. Like, it just happens in our neighborhood. We can never record an entire podcast without somebody mowing their grass.
Yeah. Back to spring.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I like the idea of when I look back on friendships that are no longer what I would call active friendships. I think every time you think back to those, it's an invitation to bitterness or an invitation to regret or an invitation to guilt when you look back. But I want it to be invitation for gratitude, to look back and just be grateful that I had that person or that group of people in my life in that particular season.
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, I have like dear friends from college that we just don't talk a lot anymore because we're literally in different states, doing very different things. Some of us are married with kids. Some of us aren't married at all. And it's like, it's really like, I feel almost guilty sometimes when I'm on social media or something and I see them.
Yeah.
Like posting stuff and I'm like, gosh, I feel bad I didn't know XYZ, or I feel bad whatever. It's just like somehow there's this inside guilt when I see those people, like even through a lens. It's just like I feel that, and I'm like, why do I feel that? There's nothing done wrong. There's no hate. Like we all love each other, but yeah, it's weird how we've almost like culturally just taught ourselves that if we're not like, we should have really kept that going strong, which maybe, but like also that's not always realistic, and it's okay.
Yeah, and you know where this kind of gets, let's just call out the obvious here, where this really gets complicated is if it was more than a friendship and there was some kind of romantic interest there. My experience is, and you guys probably know what I'm talking about here, when you look back on, if it's an ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, ex-husband, ex-wife, whatever, we tend to not look back with gratitude for the time that we had with that person. In fact, what normally happens is we demonize them.
Yeah.
You're going to focus on their most negative qualities that they have, because you think somehow that justifies the reason that you guys are no longer friends or you're no longer romantically connected.
Yep.
And so if you can't look back on past relationships with gratitude, you're almost always eventually going to demonize them to make yourself feel better about the fact that you're no longer connected to that person.
Yeah, it's like a defense mechanism
Right.
in your mind. You're like, I can't think positively because then maybe I might have to deal with actual like feelings of grief and work through that. Like it's so common. It's so easy to do that.
And maybe what you need to do when you're looking back on those friendships and relationships and all that is you look back and say, maybe it wasn't good, bad, or right, wrong. It's then and now. Right? It was then and now. Now it's a different time. It's a different season.
Yeah. I was thinking through this, and I had a friend in college that was actually pretty toxic. Like she was very jealous and
what's her name? Just kidding.
First
Just
and last
kidding.
name. I almost said it. Oh my gosh, what a crazy person. Anyways, it was toxic and it was not good for me. And I was sitting here thinking like, how can I look back on that with gratitude? But I actually like found a way to think, you know what? I learned a lot about myself. Like I stood up for myself and ended that relationship in a healthy way. But like, I felt so bad in that moment, like kind of separating myself from her. But really, I'm grateful I had that friendship because I know, like I'm valuable. I know, like she would put me down in all kinds of ways, and I now like I know those red flags. But also, like, it was an opportunity for me in college to, like, stand up for myself and realize that I deserve friends that are for me and that don't blow out the light of your candle.
And you can choose to look back on that now with gratitude because of what you learned. Right.
Yeah.
I love that. So the other principle I was thinking about was being willing to let go when the current is leading you elsewhere. I think the reality is that sometimes we stay in certain relationships too long, like to your point that you just mentioned, that are toxic. And we need to learn to be sensitive to life and to the fact that sometimes the current of life is going to take you in a different direction, and you need to be willing to let go. And this is where I kind of wrote down just a handful of real common things that happen that cause you to no longer be floating in the same current as somebody else. One of them is distance. You moved or they moved, and it changes things, right? Another one's different lifestyles. Typically, we form connections and are most closely associated with people through school or through work or some kind of common activity. And sometimes that's just going to change, and that's okay. Another one would be other relationships. You only have so much time in life, right?
Right, yeah.
And sometimes you go into a different season of your life, and maybe you had a particular group of friends when you were single, and then you get married, and it changes that dynamic.
Yeah.
In one practical way, because that marriage relationship is going to take up a ton of time
Yeah.
if it's going to be healthy.
Yeah.
Right? Another one's just growing apart. Sometimes it's not external circumstances or a zip code or a new relationship that affects the friendship. It's the relationship that we have with ourselves, and we grow, and hopefully we're all growing, right? We're changing over time, and sometimes you just kind of grow apart. You're not at the same place that you were back then.
Right.
Those are all common reasons why you gotta have to be okay with letting go and not floating with somebody that you floated with for a season.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think about like literally that metaphor is so good because I'm sitting here. You know how painful it is when a tube is like going down a river and you're trying to hold on for dear life? It hurts.
Yep.
And it hurts after you let go too because you held on too long and then you have other damages inside your arm. You know, it's like, so it's the same way. I feel like if you hold on too long, you're still in pain when you let go. So like it's learning those early signs of like you're not being true to yourself and all those things. But yeah, that metaphor is so good.
Yeah, and for some of you that struggle with codependency, you know, that principle's tough because you kind of define yourself in the context of that relationship, and so it's scary to think I need to let go of this relationship, even if you sense it's toxic. Yeah, because then it's like, what's my identity? And so I just encourage, let go. It's okay. Let go. And you know what? When you let go, you can always float back. You know, I think about when you're in a creek, sometimes you kind of take your own little path there for a while, and then you kind of merge back up with that person.
Yeah.
And at that point, it just feels right. You know, it doesn't mean that you're letting go forever. Maybe it's a season.
Yeah, that's true too. I always like have to tell myself that kind of stuff with anything in life, but it's not always forever.
That's right.
That is very reassuring for me a lot of times.
Yep. Another principle I thought about in all this is just be grateful for those who are currently floating with you. Right? Just be grateful. Like we talked about going out on our date night last night, and we were there with 4 of the friends, and I was just thinking, I'm so grateful that these particular people are in our lives in this season. Will they be there forever? I don't know. But right now, I can be super grateful that for whatever reason, somehow God has put things together where our floats all kind of lined up.
Yeah.
And we're floating together now.
That's really good. Because a lot of times too, you can almost worry that they're not going to be here forever.
Sure.
And that's true with family too. You know, like it's you as parents get older or as your spouse gets older, whatever it is, like you can almost experience life like with the anticipation of it not coming back or not going to be here forever. And like it steals so much joy. And I'm guilty of that. Like when I go back to Georgia, because when we leave, my initial, reaction is sad. Like I'm sad. I'm sad to leave. I'm sad that I'm, and I would kind of leave with that feeling. And then I forget, I read something somewhere, but anyway, it was all about like adjusting your mindset and saying, I'm grateful I had that experience.
Yeah.
Instead of I'm sad I don't have it like always, it's just I'm grateful for those 3 days I had there. And so that's really changed my mentality a lot in that. But anyway.
Yeah, I love that. And another thing too, I think, is to pay attention and be fully present when your float bumps up against somebody else's float. Like that. This whole analogy just made me think of, what, there's some people, I wouldn't even call it a friendship, right? There's some people that for whatever reason you float with them, and maybe it's only 2 minutes. Maybe it's the waitress, right? Or maybe it's the person checking you out at the grocery store, and it's just a couple minutes, but I'm trying to keep in my mind to be fully present, because like that's not an accident that we're floating together for those couple minutes. And in that couple minutes, if I can somehow breathe life into them, if I can encourage them, if I can instill a sense of hope where they need hope, why wouldn't I do that?
Yeah.
And to really kind of take advantage of that, again, because even if it's only for 2 minutes, who knows? I've had some life-altering moments, like words spoken over me from people I really didn't even know, but for whatever reason, we floated together for a short period of time.
Yeah. And like a small moment, like you being kind to someone at Kroger, maybe makes them feel better about their day, which then helps them make a better decision when they get home, which then it's like such a domino, but that's such a good point. Like it's not always like a finite experience. Like it does continue to influence. So that's really good.
Yeah, I just I love that concept. It's kind of exciting. Every day you're in the creek and you're floating, and yeah, you got the people around you that you know, family, people like, you know, really solid friendships that you know are in the creek with you. But it's also exciting to think about every day you get in the creek and you have no idea who you might end up floating next to on that day.
That's really good.
And you really don't always know what the purpose behind that is. So I like that sense of going into my day and I'm getting in the creek and who knows,
Yeah.
right? But I'm going to pay attention to it. I'm going to be fully present when that happens.
It's super healthy to like kind of live your life in such a way that's just like accepting of things that coming in, but not clinging to things that may be trying to exit. You know, like I feel like that's such a healthier way to look at relationships instead of being angry that they're not as close, or angry that, you know, they did X, Y, and Z and y'all aren't close anymore. It's so freeing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a famous quote, and it's been attributed to a lot of different people and said in some a little different ways, but essentially, the quote is, "We're all just walking each other home." And I like that kind of description of we're all just walking each other home. And you know, there's some people that you might walk with that entire journey. That's possible, but it's very, very, very rare that you have somebody that you get that opportunity to walk with them through the entire journey of your life. But when I think about this image of we're all just walking each other home, I love this idea that, and you know what? Maybe there's somebody that walked you up a really difficult hill, or maybe there's somebody who just walked a single block in your life, right? But that throughout your life, and I believe this, I really do believe this, that God sends the right people at the right time into your life. And maybe the intention wasn't that they walk you all the way home, but they walked you through a particular chapter. They floated with you for a while.
Yeah, that's so good. And you know what? That's kind of a gift, because like, I know I have friends who have different experiences and different, just from different walks of life. And they walked me through certain things uniquely.
That's right.
You know, it's like, I don't want the same person forever. I mean, I'm grateful I have kind of that core like family. But yeah, I think back to like, even like early days with Pepper, I have a great friend who walked me through that. And then I think about college when I broke up with my first boyfriend, I had great friends who walked me through that. But the same ones couldn't always be there in every moment with the same empathy and experiences that you need when you do like have that multitude of friendships that kind of happen coming going through your life. Like they do add unique things throughout, and being grateful for that, even though it's gone, is just, I don't know. I've never thought about it like that before until you talked about it this week.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know where each of you is in your life and your relationships, but, you know, maybe some of you right now are in a season where you're floating alone. And maybe what you're learning is that's okay. You're surviving. It's not where you want to stay forever.
Yeah.
Floating down the creek alone. We weren't created to float down the creek alone. But there's seasons, there's chapters in your life where maybe you are. And, you know, now maybe you just start kind of looking around. It's like, oh, I could go float over there next to that person for a while. Or I like that group over there that has all their floats tied together and they're playing loud music and that looks like fun. I think I want to go over there and float with them for a while. And it's, you know, I don't know. I really, you said this really well a moment ago of not feeling like you have to cling on to every float that you float by, right?
Yeah.
That viewing those relationships as attachments that often lead to becoming toxic over time.
Yeah, becoming somewhat of your identity. Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like this is your permission slip to let go. Because a lot of times if you're clinging, then there's some other work that really it will help you become your most true, like authentic self, right? Because I know any time in life that I've clinged to something, it's out of fear of what could potentially happen after that, or who am I going to hang out with, or who, like, what will people think if I break up with this person? And it was all just not true to myself, when I'm clinging on to something, because I don't think that's what we're meant to do. I don't think that's how we're meant to live. So anyway, I really, this is such a cool concept.
Yeah, it's been helpful to me. I've got another friend that I went to college with, and we were roommates, and we would still say we're friends. You know, we talk probably once a year. And but sometimes I feel guilty about that. But I'm like, I can wave to him. I'm waving. You know, we're in different seasons of our life these days.
Yeah.
There wasn't like a bad toxic breakup or anything like that. It's just we're in different seasons, and once a year I get to pass by and wave. And how are things going? You all right? You know, if he fell out of his tube, I'd be over there in a heartbeat.
Sure.
But we're just in different places now, and that is okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like this unspoken thing. Like, I know if I went to some of my college roommates and said, do you feel bad every time like we see each other, or we're in the same town and we don't see each other? And they'd be like, yes. And I know I would tell them, don't feel bad about that. Please don't waste your energy on that. So it's like, turn that, coin on yourself and say, don't feel bad about that. Like, that's okay. And I don't know. I think we sit in guilt a lot. And more than anything, like, this concept, I hope, is freeing of like bitterness and resentment. And that is holding you captive, to just be like, it's okay. Cause I know you were talking about that one friend earlier. You have found in just this week so much freedom.
I really have.
And being able to say, I'm grateful. Like, it changes the way you perceive the thoughts of that person, because if you think of it like, I'm grateful, versus I don't know why he never responded to me reaching out, trying to reconcile, or I don't know why, that's the posture you think of him with.
Yeah.
But now if it's like, no, I'm really grateful for that time, you almost think back to that 10 years and think about the happy things and the good that came from it, instead of the opposite. And I just think for your soul, that is so powerful.
Yeah, it is. And now if I get the opportunity to float by him again, I can genuinely smile. I can genuinely wave. I can genuinely be kind. I don't have to feel like I need to pull out a BB gun and shoot his float.
I didn't know what you were going to say after shoot. Like, I thought you were going to say, like, and shoot him.
With a BB gun?
Float. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It didn't kill. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, you don't want to poke holes in his float anymore.
No, I don't. I just want to look back and be grateful that we floated for a while.
That's really good. I love that concept.
Yeah.
I really like it. Yeah. Well, if you have someone you don't want to be friends with, send them this podcast. Just kidding. Don't do that. No, that was really awesome. Thank you for that. That was helpful. All right. Well, if you guys like that, please subscribe. Subscribe to whether you're listening on your podcast or watching on YouTube. Please do that. And that is super helpful to us. We love when we see our new subscribers come through. So please do that. It is fun. And then, you guys have an awesome week. I know this is Easter weekend coming up if you're listening live. So enjoy that. We are headed down to Georgia with Miss Pepper for her first Easter. So we're really excited. But thanks guys. Have an awesome week. And that was another Good Talk.